Okay, welcome everyone. We are going to learn now the continuation of a class that we've given two classes. This is going to be part 3, Thursday night class. Although we are right now in Parshas Re'eh, but we are still learning this discourse of Parshas Pinchas. So we learned it on Parshas Pinchas, we learned it on Matos Maseh. And is this class number 3 or is this class number 4? Might be already class number 4. I wrote class number 3, but this might be class number 4. I might have to fix it. Because we started learning it on Parshas Pinchas. 4? I don't remember. Whatever it is, we're learning. So the main point over here we were learning, for those, obviously everybody's completely immersed in exactly where we were holding. We were learning how the Jewish people are referred to as God's produce. And we were learning the beginning of his produce. We were learning how the exile is a time when God scatters Israel across the entire world, just like when you scatter seeds, you put it in the ground, it decays, it rots, but then it yields a tremendous crop. So too, all this godliness of putting the Jewish people around the entire world elevates all the sparks of holiness, and eventually it's going to come out in incredible revelation in the time of Moshiach, godly light in the time of the Geulah. But he says a little bit of that reveals itself on every various different levels of that immense revelation that's going to be in Messianic times, reveals itself even before Mashiach comes through the 3 pilgrimage holidays, which are all related to the development of the crop. So Pesach is the development of the barley, which barley is the minuscule godliness that is the source of creation. Barley comes from the word in Hebrew is sa'ora, which the Zohar says is shiur hay, which is the divine light that is in a state of shiur. It became limited to each creation according to its capacity, what we call maamar kalalman, the indwelling light of God. Then on Shavuot, which is the yomim of the harvest, the cutting, then we are elevated to a much higher level of godliness. We go through the lowest limited godliness, which is the level of Malchut. Malchut is the closest to us. We reach the Chita, which is the 22 letters of the Torah, which the Torah is already coming from the masculine light. It's above Malchut. It's already the infinite light of the Ze'er Anpin, which is already considered infinite compared to Malchus. And that's Shavuos. That's why we receive the Torah, which is a far more inner connection to a deeper level of the divine. Finally, after Chag HaKotzer, which is the Yom Tov of the harvest, we come to Chag HaAsuf, which is Sukkos, which is the ingathering of all the grain, which is going to be referring to even a much higher level of godliness, which comes through, not through Torah, but it comes through Chuvah. Chuvah brings a light that is higher than Torah and mitzvos. That's what we're holding. So let's read inside. I'm sorry I'm not doing a 45-minute introduction. We did a very short synopsis. I think this is the shortest synopsis we've ever done. Do you have the copy? Okay. And the Yom Tov of the gathering, B'tzeis Hashana, when the year goes out, when you gather es masecha, your produce, min asada, from the field. This is a verse in Parshas Mishpatim, which is in Exodus. So there it connects all the 3 holidays to the crop year, to the development of the crop. So Sukkot, which is the holiday of the booths, which is coming up in about 47 days. That holiday is with the holiday called, because that's at the season when any farming, that's when you've already brought all your produce into the house. Because in the summer, everything stays out to dry up, and now you bring it all in, you're gathering it. So that's the season of that. But we know that he explained earlier in the discourse that the physical is reflecting the spiritual. That the physical ingathering of all the crops is because spiritually we're also reaping and bringing in all the crops into our lives, spiritually. So what does that mean? Sukkos is called the Yom Tov of the... here they are. The Yom Tov of the gathering. So what does that mean? The sages say, Machris Rav Yanai. Rav Yanai made an announcement. Chaval al mandalesle darta, the Tara, the darta of it. Chaval is like, what a shame. Someone who doesn't have a darta means he doesn't have a doorway. Vitara la darta of it, but he makes a door he makes a door, but there's no doorway. So Rabbi Yanai says, how foolish is a person like that? What are you making a door if you have nowhere to put the door? A whole door is supposed to be in a doorway. But if you have no doorway, what are you making a door? So what is he referring to? Upirish Rashi explains, Biyuma, Mesechtes Yuma. Perek Boloi, in the Perek of Boloi, it's the Perek Boloi Eitzel. It's the beginning of the Perek starts with the word Boloi, he came. Daf Ayin Beis Amud Beis, page 72 on the second side. Sha'atoira hu shar liyira shehu shehi hadarta. The doorway is the fear of God. The door is the Torah. The Torah is considered the door into the fear, into the doorway, which is the fear. So if someone doesn't have any fear of God and he's learning Torah, so he has a door, but he doesn't have where to enter. And the Torah is not it's like you're putting a door in the middle. You're not the whole door is to be able to enter through the door. You enter somewhere, but if you have you open the door to go in somewhere. But if you don't have any doorway or into a place opening with a door, what are you holding a door for? So the Torah is a door to enter into fear. But if the guy doesn't have any fear, what are you making the thing? We need to understand. Aleph, Amru, Yachad, in Masechta Shabbos, page 31, they all said, Kol Adam sheyesh by Torah ve'ein by Yerushalayim. We learned this actually earlier in the discourse. A person that has Torah and he doesn't have fear, Daima legizbar, he's compared to a treasurer who they gave him the inside keys, but they didn't give him the outside key. What does that mean? That fear is considered the outside key. The Torah is considered the inside treasure. So a person has the keys to the safe, but he doesn't have the key to get into the room where the safe is. So it comes out from the statement from the Gemara is that the Torah is considered the inside safe, and the fear is considered the outside entrance. Right? And the question over here is, here we're saying that the Torah is considered the outside doorway, and the fear is the inside. So it seems to be opposite than what we just said. Machriz Rav Yanai. Chaval al man de lesle darta v'tare le darta ovid ve'ech medam et Torah l'maftechas apnimis. Once you have Rav Yanai makes the announcement that Chaval, what a shame for someone that doesn't have the inside. He doesn't have where the doorway to enter, and he makes a door. So the Torah, he calls the Torah a door. So then how does the Gemara elsewhere say that the Torah is the inside, is the key to the inside safe? It's reverse. The yiras and fear is considered the outside key. Then the Gemara says the opposite. Which one is the gate to what? If you say the Torah is the inside keys and fear is the outside keys, that means the fear is the entrance way to the Torah. Torah is inside, meaning the Torah is much higher than the fear of God, according to the Gemara Masechta Shabbos. According to Rav Yanai, it comes out the opposite. What a shame that someone who has a door, but he doesn't have a room to go into with that door. Comes out that the inside is the fear, and the Torah is only the door, is the outside. How do we reconcile these two? The relationship of Torah to the fear of God. Which one is higher? Comes out that fear, according to Rav Yanai, comes out that fear is higher than the Torah. Ube'emes kain mashma. Now in truth, so it seems to imply, from what it says, Vayetzavenu Hashem, Parshas Veschanon. It says, Vayetzavenu Hashem, Hashem commanded us, Lasei says, Kol achukim ha'ele, to do all these laws, these statutes, Yiras Hashem Elokeinu, in order to fear God, your God. What do you see from here? That the mitzvos, including Torah, lead you to fear. That means that the fear is a higher level than the Torah and the mitzvos. Exactly like Rav Yanai says. But then the Gemara says that the Torah is considered the inside keys, and the fear is considered the outside, the doorway to enter. Parshas Veschanon Vav Chav Dalet. Shamash Mashagama Torah Nikra Chukim, that the Torah that's called Chukim, Hem Gam Kein Rak Hagdama, the Torah is only a Hagdama, it's only a prelude, an introduction, but they love the B'chinas Yira to come to the fear. The answer is both are true. There's two levels of fear. There's one level of fear that's considered an entranceway to Torah. Torah is a higher level than that level of fear. That's basic fear. That's like, they don't let you drive unless you have basic insurance, basic liability. Then you can get full coverage. That's already, you have to pay, you're getting full coverage, you're renting a car. If you don't have it, they don't let you. In America, most people have their own insurance, no problem. But you go to a different country, you have to always pay the insurance. The basic you have to pay. If you want full coverage to cover the car, to cover without any headache, they make you pay a bunch. So here's the same thing. Fear, there's two levels. There's basic fear. That's considered external to the Torah. You don't need, in order to come to that level of fear of God, you don't need Torah. You just have to have a basic awareness that the world did not make itself by itself, and there is a master to this creation. There is a creator to this creation. And you don't have to be a great scholar to come to that. You don't corrupt your consciousness, you'll have that feeling. A person doesn't destroy their inner equilibrium, whatever the word is. If you don't lose your balance, and you just are a sane human being without a deep destruction, there should be a basic sense of morality with a basic awareness of a creator who created the world. That's the fear. That's the basic fear. And obviously that itself has many levels. But that's called the lower fear. Higher than that is Torah. Torah puts you in a deeper connection to God. This is the same idea we learned Torah. That's the barley. Barley is the lower level of fear. Basic fear, basic awareness of God. The wheat, that's the Torah, which is getting to know the inside of God. Where does God reveal himself, who he really is? In the Torah. And so the Torah is deeper than that's the wheat. It's deeper than the barley. Torah is considered, and this is what the Gemara says. Regarding this, the Talmud says that if someone has Torah and doesn't have fear, meaning this level of fear, if someone has Torah and doesn't have this level of fear, he's compared to a treasurer who was given the inside key, the key to the safe, but he can't get into the whole building. He doesn't have the code to the building. So what does he have? He has the key to the bank safe, but he doesn't have the key, he doesn't have access code to the building. He's outside. So in this is Torah is considered, Torah is considered the safe, the inside treasure of the divine. But it's not just learning Torah. It's not opening any safe because you're not even in the building if you don't have fear. But it says, Rav Yanai, however, is speaking on a much higher level. Rav Yanai is saying that after you study Torah, you excel to a much deeper level of fear. That fear is not the fear of God as the master and the king of the universe. That God is the creator of the world. God's greatness is not that he's the creator of the world. When you come up and close to God, you melt completely from your entire existence. You lose your bearings completely. You have no self at all. You dissolve into absolute nothingness in front of his infinite presence. That's called the higher fear. It's not a fear of punishment. It's not a fear that God is it's a fear of God's ultimate truth, God's ultimate greatness. That's even higher than Torah. You have to study, and for that, Torah is considered the doorway into that. So Rav Yanai says, a shame to a person who stops with the Torah but doesn't go into the next level. So it's like a person who has a door. You have the door, but you don't realize that the Torah is a door to step into something much deeper than the Torah, which is the ultimate fear of God himself. You fail to look up the Baal Shem Tov. It's like all the great sages, they all learned Torah. But then they met the Baal Shem Tov and they experienced a higher fear. Through the tzaddik like that, they can sense the vibrations of the Ein Sof. And they became nullified completely. Torah, they had a lot of scholars who taught Torah. But to take them into that next chamber of awe, on the highest, deepest level of real awe of God, to take them into that deep level of real yirat Hashem on this crazy level, for that, the fear is far more advanced. For that, the fear is far more advanced than the Torah. This is what he explains over here. The idea is there's two levels of fear. You just have to have it in front of you. It's okay. There's two levels of fear. Yes, equal. There you go. He's connected. Wherever I am, he's there already. Not only is he there, he's there before I even get there. He's there already. Whenever I go, I find him there already. There's two levels of fear. There's the lower fear. There's the higher fear. And this is why the sage, it's actually a Mishnah. The Mishnah says in Tractate in Ethics of the Fathers, if you don't have wisdom, you can't have fear. If you don't have fear, you don't have wisdom. So which one are you supposed to start with? You can't have any wisdom if you have fear. But you can't have any fear unless you have wisdom. So it's a catch-22. The answer is it's not the same level. It means like this. If you don't have, the fear is two different levels of fear. The wisdom is the same wisdom, but the wisdom of the Torah. But the fear is two levels of fear. First elementary, basic entry into anything godly is to have sensitivity to God and to care about God's will. You can't dismiss God's will and just say, I do whatever I want. Then you're not connecting. You have to be willing to be submissive to Hashem's will by feeling that God is the boss. He created the world and you're his subject and we're willing to serve him. That's your basic entry. And only if you have that level of fear, then when you learn Torah, you're actually downloading something godly. Or else you're just hearing words. It's not really downloading into your soul. So you first have to accept upon yourself the fear of God, which means obedience, which is the lower level of fear, which that you don't need Torah to be able to, just a basic understanding that there is a God who created heaven and earth, and you have accountability to him. And when you found out basically what he wants, how he wants us to live, with basic morality, you're willing to live that. You're willing to have that surrender. That's the basic fear. Once a person has that, now you study Torah. And now, when you're learning Torah, you're downloading God into you through the wisdom. That's giving you a much higher sensitivity of God because you're downloading godliness and suddenly you can feel the inside of God. And then you can begin to fear his true greatness. So that's the meaning. If there's no fear, there is no wisdom. But then after you have the fear and you have the wisdom, only with that wisdom can you reach the higher level of fear. Without the wisdom in the middle, without the Torah in the middle, you can never graduate the lower fear and reach the higher fear. What's the difference between the two fears? The lower fear is God as a king over the universe. The higher fear is God's true greatness that's not seen in creation. That which in front of him all is not. That's not possible to figure out from the creation. That one has to get access into something much deeper, and the Torah takes you into that place. So these are the ideas. If there's no fear, and yira, there's no. I'm sorry. If there's no wisdom, and yira, there's no fear. If there's no fear, and chachma, there's no wisdom. Mishnah Paragimel the Avis. V'ayim b'toisvis yomtov sheyesh garshim ein yira ein chachma. V'im ein chachma ein yira. Oh, that fits better. The Tosfos Yom Tov has a girsa that he likes better. Girsa meaning has a version that he feels is more consistent with what we're learning. If there's no, you start with fear. If there's no fear, there's no wisdom. If there's no wisdom, there's no fear. The other version of the Mishnah is the opposite. If there's no wisdom, there's no fear. If there's no fear, there's no wisdom. It doesn't work well with our explanation. It works better the right way. The Tosfos Yom Tov says he's supposed to do it this way. B'sefer derech hachai. V'hainu. V'cheinu ha'gersa b'sefer derech hachai. So too the Maral. The Maral of Prague and his gersa and his version was also like the Tosfos Yom Tov. It's interesting. Tosfos Yom Tov was a student of the Maral, so actually it makes sense that he follows his Rebbe's. Any case, v'hainu, what does that mean? The lower fear. Mishnah Tas Peri Gimel Anal. It says in Mishnah, Kol yiras, because the lower fear means what it says in the Mishnah. Kol yiras chatoi kademes lechachmasei chachmasei miskayemes. Anybody's whose fear of sin is before his wisdom will last. Whose wisdom will endure. Someone who's what? Whose fear of God precedes his wisdom. Pirish yiras. So what does it mean? That's called the fear of sin. Yiras chetoi. And what is the idea of being fear of sinning? It's not a fear of punishment, but you're afraid to disregard God's commandments. You don't want to offend God. That's what it is. The person fears not to rebel against God. And therefore not to blemish the thought, speech, and action. Because that's where, in our behavior, that's when we can blemish God's will. Blemish the mitzvah by not obeying God's in thought, speech, and action. This is the outside keys. That's the basic entry into a relationship with God, is to be sensitive to God's will. And through this, one's wisdom will last, which means one's Torah will stick. This is the wisdom of the Torah. If you have the fear of Hashem, then the wisdom will stick. And on this they say, if there's no fear, there is no wisdom, as we said. You have to have fear. Because if a person has a lot of knowledge, but they get used to disregard. Imagine, a person learns to have a certain awareness. They know the truth, and then they decide they're not listening to it. What's going to happen according to that? It's not going to stick to you. There's nothing godly about it. Therefore, if there's no fear at first, there's no wisdom. It doesn't last. But then there is a much higher level of fear. There is a higher level of fear. And on this, it's the second statement. If there's no wisdom, what is that level? That's called a higher fear. In order to come to that great high level of fear, it's only through the Torah which can transport a person into the inner world of the divine. And then you can sense God on levels that you can never imagine through your own mind. No matter how much you explore and meditate, you can never touch that level. The Torah can take you into that place. That's the wisdom of the Torah. And then the Torah is a gateway, and a hallway, Lavoi lebchinas yirazu. The Torah is like a foyer that you, through that doorway, or through that experience, you enter into the higher fear. And on this level of fear, Hichris Rav Yanai announced, what a shame to people that study Torah, but they don't realize that there is a certain experience that the Torah is supposed to lead them to. They're happy with the Torah. They don't realize that the Torah could take them into an experience of the divine that's even higher than the Torah. Shemachris Rabbi Yanai, that's what Rabbi Yanai announced. Shachaval, what a shame. Alman the less Darta, he doesn't have a room, hu ayira, which is the fear, vitara ladarta, but a door to the fear. He walks around with the door. All day long, wherever he's walking with a door. But where are you placing the door? The door is an inch. The door is supposed to bring you into a room. That's the fear. And the person doesn't even realize that there's a room. He's just opening the door all day long. In the middle, outside, he's standing on the screen, he's opening his door. Where are you going? The Torah is a gate and an entrance to this deeper fear. And we have to say, this is the higher fear. I know. And what does that mean? Ramaz is Ramosha Zakusi, great Kabbalist, an Italian Kabbalist. Pirish Reish Parshas Vayeshev, Parshas Acharei, in the beginning of Parshas Vayeshev and Parshas Acharei, says, Shehu Nimshach Megvura Da'atik, that this fear is coming from the Gevura element of the inner. So Gevura casts fear. Gevura is the God's might. That's what creates fear. But this is not the Gevura that manifests in creation, which is the Gevura of Atzilus, the Gevura of the world, a worldly Gevura, a dominance of a king, so to speak, in a world. Gevura Da'atik means it's the Gevura of Keter, of the crown. Now the crown is godliness that's infinitely higher than the world. And Atik is the innermost of the crown. Godliness that's utterly removed from creation. Now, Yira, Gematria. Now, we said earlier that fear comes from Gevura. Well, they have the same Gematria. Both of them are Gematria 216. Gevura is Gematria 216. And Yira is Gematria. Yira means fear. Gematria 216. Yira, Gematria, Gevura. So that's the Gevura of, that's the higher fear coming from such a high place. Now, how does Torah give it to you? Well, we're saying that Torah is the doorway to there. Because it's explained in Kabbalah that Gevura of Atik Yomin, the Gevura element of the crown, is enclosed in the Moach Stima, in the hidden mind of Erech Anpin. So let me give a little bit of a Kabbalistic framework, In Keter, in the crown, there's two levels. There's the higher level of the crown called Atik Yomin, Ancient of Days, which is the level of it's basically God's private self. It's the infinite light, utterly above and beyond creation. Then there's the level in the infinite light. It's still above the Sphirot. That's why it's called Keter. It's still above the Sphirot, which is the crown. It's still above. But it's called Erech Anpin, the long face. It's already has a relationship with the worlds, and with the Sphirot, and with the worlds, and so on and so on. In Erech Anpin, which is the lower part of the Keter, there is what he calls Moach Stima, the hidden mind. It's the Chachma that's in Erech Anpin. In Keter, there is Chachma. It's the Chachma in Keter, which is much higher than revealed Chachma, than revealed understanding, the revealed wisdom. It's the wisdom in the Ein Sof. So I'm not going to get into all the explanation of this, but this is all part of Erech Anpin, which is the lower part of Keter. Above that is the higher part of Keter called Atik Yomin. Now, in Atik Yomin, there is in a hidden, unimaginable way, all 10 Sphirot, but they're all hidden in Atik Yomin. The Gevura element of it, which is the intensity of it, of the Atik Yomin, which is where this higher fear comes from, is enclosed in the Chachma of Erech Anpin. And that's called Moach Stima, the concealed Moach. That's the source of the Torah. Now we'll understand why when you learn Torah, it gives you access to that fear. Because enclosed in Moach Stima, which is the source of Torah, is this higher level of Gevura. And that's why a tzaddik, and all of us, Be'ezrat Hashem, when Moshiach will come, and we'll have pure souls and our sensors will kick in, the moment we will learn any element of Torah, we will become so aware of the infinite presence of God that we will start trembling like a leaf, not in a negative way. It will cast such a powerful awe and fear, which is going to be an incredible experience of like, whoa. That's the gevura of At. That's where the Torah has to lead you to, into that utter nullification in front of the Ein Sof. So again, gevura b'chenas moich stima shemisham hamshachas b'chenas mazlei. Now hear this something. The moach stima of Keter is still way higher than the Torah. You hear? The moach stima of Keser is still way higher than Torah. From the moach stima of Keter come two little hair, like the hair on the head, but two like the hair of the beard, two, which from there, through those tiny little hair follicles, comes the godly light that feeds the Torah. You understand how high the level of moach of Keter is, which is only an enclosement to the gevura of Atik Yomim. It's a distilling. It distills it, it diminishes it, it filters it down through the hair. And not the Torah that we learn here. The Torah as it is in Atzilus, the vast Torah, is only nashing from a tiny little hair from the Moach Stima. But in the Moach Stima is the Gevura of Atik Yomin. So therefore, through the Torah, you can sense the Ein Sof of Atik Yomin. And when you sense that inside your neshama, you melt from fear. Our Torah comes from the ayin be Geras HaKodesh, and therefore looking at Geras HaKodesh. The Kisha Adam, so you're going to say, come on. You expect me to learn Torah and feel all of that? How? We're learning Torah in a physical world. We're learning Torah in a physical body. We're learning the Torah as the Torah is already enclosed in a million times lower than the Torah when it is in Atzilus. And yet, you're expecting me to feel what the Torah... The answer is, it says in Tanya, that from the Arizal, that when a person studies Torah down here, your source of your soul up there, in millions of light years away in heaven, is also learning Torah. And the vibrations of your own source of your neshama, way up there learning, and the soul up there learning Torah is tapping the real divine light from the Torah. And because the vibrations are felt up there, it's felt down here as well. If a person is pure and a person is clean, that when they learn the Torah down here, they connect to that. When a person studies Torah, the yuknoi means the very same image of the person, osek l'mayla b'Torah, is learning up their Torah. I know his kashrus. This is the bonding mazlei shel haneshama. It's called the mazel of your neshama, your soul, and there is the mazel of your soul. The mazel of your soul is your neshama as it is in the highest, godliest places that never came down in your body. That's the mazel of the neshama. When we study Torah down here, that mazel of the neshama is learning Torah up there as well. And what is it learning? It's learning the source of Torah up there. Obviously, it's not felt in our consciousness, only in our super consciousness. But those that are pure, there can be a little connection. And that's where, through that antenna, the higher fear can come upon the person. So that a person should suddenly learn Torah, and it should be as if you're standing at Sinai. Now, when we studied Torah for the first time at Sinai, we all had convulsions. We were on the floor shaking like a leaf. That's why we died 10 times. He just couldn't handle it. It was tremendous love, but it was also tremendous fear, because you heard God speaking. The sages tell us that every time a person learns Torah, you're supposed to learn with that same sense of awe. Question is, how can you do that? There was God talking to us. Here we're reading Torah, like we're chilled out, we're reading Torah. We're eating cholent and learning Torah. Like, we don't have that sense at all. We're now but because when we're learning Torah down here, our mazel of the neshama is learning Torah up there, and some transmitters are transmitting. So it's possible to start fearing that fear. Obviously, that's the way great tzaddikim, when they learned, they felt it. We have a lot to wish for. And just like by the giving of the Torah, every time God said an utterance, all the people died. Their souls flew out of their body. They couldn't handle it. Out of love and out of fear. In the same way, when a person studies Torah, tipol olav, it will fall upon a person, ema upachad, a dread and a fear. Mahadar gaon uzay, from the splendor of his majestic power. You suddenly feel it in your bones. Like it says in the days of Mashiach. Get ready to see if you want Mashiach to come. It says in the days of Mashiach, people will run and look for caves to hide from God. God's presence, the consciousness of God is going to flood the earth in such a powerful way that people won't know where to bury their faces. People won't know where to hide. People are going to look for clefts in rocks. They'll feel a little more comfortable. They'll feel like they can't stand outside and shiver in front of the infinity. They'll try to hide in a rock. It's not going to help us too much, but that's at least the attempt will be made. So he's saying, similar to that, we should aspire to when we learn Torah, to feel that. Now, it seems like it's a very, very, very annoying feeling, but actually, it's not. It's an exhilarating experience. I don't know what it feels. I never felt it. But it says, "Ubo, they will come b'marois tzurim, in the crevices of rocks, mipnei pachad Hashem, for the dread of God." Torah's Moshe. Now we'll also understand why the Torah is called the Torah of Moses, Torah of Moshe. When Moshe studied Torah, he studied Torah like this. Ki b'Moshe nemar, because by Moshe it says, "V'nachnu ma," we are what? He says about him and his brother Aaron, we are what? And Chassidus explains it means they were so humble that they had no feeling of self. Such of not feeling of self, to the point that they say, we are what? We don't even have no sense of existence, is because their socks were blown off them by what? By their intense feeling of God. So they couldn't even feel themselves. And Moses was in this state of mind 24/7. And that's why he brings us the Torah, because the Torah is Moshe's. Moshe lives in the frequency of the Torah. And he lives in this higher fear. Moshe's entire life, he stood in this level of fear. He's in the bittul of 45, which is the bittul of Vairaisa, and the Torah comes from Chachma. And what's Chachma? Koach ma, the power of bittul. Shubchan is Koach ma. Look in Paradise, which is the book of the Ramak, or Moshe Cordovo. Pirish Koach ma, where he explains the idea of Koach ma. Therefore, the Torah that comes from Chachma, Nikra Shem Moshe, is called Torah's Moshe. It's this level of ma. Ma means what, feeling what in front of God. Therefore, through Torah, every person can come to this feeling of nullification. This nullification of Chachma, Yisroel, the higher fear, on his glil. So now we'll go back. Now we'll understand what Sukkos is. Sukkot. Pesach is the entranceway into godliness. It's the lowest level, the level of barley, the level of the lower fear. God being a king over the universe. But it doesn't cancel you completely. You're a subject. He's the big king, you're a subject. You have at least some sense of existence. You have some bearings. From there we go to Shavuot. It's the celebration of the Torah. Torah is higher than that level of fear. Torah is not part of creation. Torah is before creation, higher than creation. You're entering into a frequency that's above creation. That's Shavuos. But then there's something deeper than that. The Torah is only a doorway to a higher level of experience, which is higher than wisdom. It's the experience of Keter, of the crown, the Ein Sof, which when you feel that, you become absolutely nothing. That's the higher fear where Torah is supposed to lead you to. That does not come on Shavuot, that comes on Sukkot. That comes after Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. We become, on the high holidays, we experience this deeper fear, and we ought to become utterly, that's our acceleration. And that's what he's explaining over here. Sukkos, the Yom Tov of Sukkos, who bahayomim noiraim. They come after the 10 days of awe. From Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur is called 10 days of awe. Shenikra yomim noiraim, they're called the days of awe, Shem hayira, because of the fear. Higher than Torah. God turns up the frequency from this high level of fear in the days of awe. That's why you tremble in front of God much more in those days. It's something in the air. It's just there. And when you follow the ritual, you're supposed to feel it to a certain degree. It should catch you at a certain point during the holiday. Suddenly you're overtaken with this power of God's infinite presence. Nikra, and therefore it's called Chag Osif, the holiday of the gathering. Just like the gathering of the grains. You take all the crops from the fields and you bring it into the house. Or you bring it into the storages, or how do they call it, a silo? Yeah, you bring it into the silo or whatever. Or you bring it into a guarded courtyard, or guarded. Sukkos, the same is also the holiday of Sukkot. It comes after, at the conclusion of the days of awe. Which this higher fear then becomes revealed. Which is compared to a courtyard. What is a darta? The Rabbi Yanai said, woe to the person that doesn't have a courtyard, but he makes a door to the courtyard. So the courtyard is an enclosed area. And that's the fair we learned earlier. So that's why Sukkos is the time you gather everything into the courtyard. You're bringing it, all the grains are coming in. What does that mean? All of your mitzvot and all of your holy consciousness that you had throughout the year, whether it was barley type, whether it was wheat type, it's time to upgrade them all to the higher fear. That's what it means, you're bringing everything. Till then it was outside in the field, in an open space. Now you're taking them, you're bringing them into an enclosed area. And generally it means into the courtyard. What that means is you're taking all the mitzvos you did, all the Torah that you learned, and you're opening them up to lead you into the higher fair, to the highest and deepest consciousness of God on Sukkos. So Sukkos is not just a great experience, and really it's the entire month of Tishrei. It's not just a deeper experience. It's taking all the experiences of the year and upgrading it into the high holidays. The tefillin you put on 3 months ago should open up for you into a much deeper experience. That's what we're talking about. Shaloshamu kibbutz kol hatvuos. That's where there is the gathering of all the tvua. The tvuas hey. The tvua, remember we learned there's two types, tvua sa. The Pesach says, Reishis, Kodesh Yisroel Hashem, Reishis tvua sa, the beginning of her tvua, but it's written tvua so. Remember we said tvua hey and tvua vav. The barley is called tvuas hay, the grain of the hay, and tvua soy is the grain of the vav of God's name, which is the Torah and the Malchut and higher than Malchus. The feminine element of the divine, the male element of the divine. These elements. Now you're taking all those mitzvahs and all those experiences and you're upgrading them into the higher fare, into much higher than Torah and higher than mitzvahs, into the real feeling of the great awesomeness of the Ein Sof and of the days of awe. This is what the sages say. God does not have in his world only a treasure of fear of God. That we can explain it. When we say that the only thing God has in his world is a otsar, a storage of fear of God, it doesn't mean the lower fear. It means the higher fear. That's Hashem's special treasure house. And that's what God cherishes. Well, during the high holidays, we all go into that space. And we bring all of our other experiences into that. We redeem everything into a much higher place. And to explain this matter more. Now, by the way, Parshas Re'eh, this week's Parsha, has all the 3 pilgrimage holidays, ends with Sukkos. So it fits with this week's Parsha too. And the maamar that we're going to learn now, we're going to finish in about, not so much longer. It finishes up with Sukkos. The reason why the Chag of Sukkot, B'Shem Chag Asiv, it's called the Yom Tov of the gathering. And in its bar, we said earlier, Be'inya Shenikra Torah B'Shem Adam. We explained earlier that the Torah is called man. Torah is called, this is the Torah man. Just like in a person, there is 248 limbs. And 365 blood vessels. So too in the Torah. 248 positive commandments, 365 prohibitive commandments. The 248 commandments are the 248 limbs of God. Fine. And the 365 prohibitions, the 365 arteries are the 365 prohibitions. Uksiv, however, that's limited. Why is that limited? Although it's divine, it's God's limbs. But since when is God a man? It's God as God already mitigated himself to be considered a man. An awesome man. But he's a man. But listen to this. It says in the verse that the angelic beings that are called beasts, they lift the throne up. Who sits on the throne? The divine man sits on the throne. So where do they lift him? They lift the divine man to a place where above being considered a man. See, God can only be called a man when he has some limitation, when he has some design. But when you lift the energy of the Torah and the mitzvot, which is called man, you lift it to a place higher. You lift it into the Ein Sof, into Keter, into the Ein Sof. What happens? He's not a man anymore. Over there, it's beyond man. It's Ein Sof. That's called Chag. Again, I'm guessing because I didn't learn this yet. But I'm guessing that's why it's called Chag Asif. You're gathering the man into a place that's higher than man. You're suctioning the divine man upward. You're uploading him into the Ein Sof. It's like taking all the mitzvahs and dipping it into the mikveh of infinity. Lifting it into the Ein Sof. That it becomes limitless. Because the man is still limited. Not a limitation that we can understand, but still a limitation. And that's Sukkos. Sukkos is taking everything into the Ein Sof, into infinity, into boundlessness, through Chuvah, and through the higher fear of the high holidays. It says that the angelic beings, called the beasts, they carry the throne. They lift up the throne. Now, if someone is, like a chassan by his wedding, what do they do by every chassan? The chassan sits on a chair and they lift him up. So when you lift the chair, you lift the person sitting on the chair. If God is the one sitting on the chair, on the throne, and the malachim lift the with the man that's sitting on the throne, it says openly, on the throne, Ezekiel, Yecheskel, saw an image of a man sitting on the throne. That he appears to be like a man. So where are you lifting him? God says about himself, sometimes he appears as a man. Other time, God says about a man, I'm not a man. I'm not a man. So is he or is he not? Obviously it means God contracts himself to have a relationship with the world. He contracts himself into the image of man. But then through our mitzvos, we lift God back up into the Ein Sof, and he connects to us from his heightened perch, from where he is utterly infinite. And then we download infinity into and we also become beyond man. We lift Hashem up to a level where he's not a man. Man is b'chinas gimel kavod. Man is these three channels. Chesed roya yamina. Chesed is the right hand of Hashem. Gevura, the element of Gevura, droya smala, is God's left hand. Ulechen yesh dinu mishpat b'Torah. That's why you find the Torah has a lot of kindness. Torah has tremendous amount of kindness. Torah is always teaching us how kind to be, how sensitive to be, but the Torah has also got discipline. There are punishments in the Torah. Torah. If a person does a pagam, which means if a person blemishes some Torah, through the absence of a positive commandment, or if someone does one of the mitzvahs that we were told not to do, which means a prohibition, and the person is guilty, the Torah has judgment. So, which means that God is operating, when he's in the image of man, he's operating like the human being, kind, and sometimes the opposite of kind. Gevura. But here, listen to this. We say in the month of Elul, we're going to start. See how I didn't even know this. This Shabbos is already the month. Sunday is starting Elul, so we're going to start saying Psalm 27. Today was the 27th day. Psalm 27. We're going to say it twice a day. What does it say? It says, "My father and mother has forsaken me, but the Hashem ya'asvenu, God gathers me in." So what does that mean? Father and mother is chachma and bina. That's the beginning of man. And a person says, "My father and mother has forsaken me." Why would father and mother forsake me? Well, if father is wisdom and mother is understanding, which is the source from where the mitzvahs of the Torah come from, if we blemished in the mitzvahs, then we blemished God in God's wisdom, then we disconnect from. That's what it means. My father and mother have left me. It means God, as he is called father and mother, which is the chachma and the bina in Hashem, if we blemish that, then we're become disconnected. But it's not. That doesn't mean we are done with. Now we have no choice. We have to open up our souls to the deepest point, do tshuva, connect to God from a place deeper than our intellect, deeper than our mind, and then we connect to God on a level that he's higher than man. Chaga Osif, to a place higher than man. And over there, everything can be fixed in a second. My father and mother have left me. Avi v'imi, father and mother, he's referring to over here. Hem Torah shebiksav. The written Torah is called father. The Torah shebal peh, and the oral Torah is called mother. Why? Because just like in the creation of a child, the father gives the seminal drop. The mother takes that drop and creates an entire human with it. Same thing, the written Torah is tiny little seminal drops. Every mitzvah is a point. The oral Torah takes one line in Chumash and turns it into an entire tractate. So the Torah, literally, the oral Torah is the mother, and when a person blemished in the Torah, what happens? When a person blemished in the Torah, in the written Torah, and in the oral Torah, chas v'sholom, God forgive. And then avi v'imi azavuni, my father and mother have left me. V'Hashem ya'asfeni, and God gathers us in. What does that mean? Hainu b'chinas or ein sof, the infinite light baruch hu, shalamaylam b'chinas eschalkus. Before God, before the infinite light becomes channeled into three channels, kindness, severity. The infinite, while the infinite is still the infinite. It's higher than its chalkos, gimel kavn, because the division into the lines, into the channels, begins with chachma. Chachma starts kima chachma lamata, from chachma and below hu b'chinas es chalkos kavn. That's where you have division. The divine light is already divided. That's why chachma has a little bit of judgment in it. Like the Chayet says. I love whenever we mention the Chayet, I get all excited. The Chayet is this great Kabbalist, he's called the tailor. Like the tailor said. He must have been some tailor sitting in Tzvat somewhere, tailoring people's pants. And he's this great Kabbalist that all the rabbis quote that when you really get high, they talk about the Chayet. So the Chayet says that in Chachma there's a little bit of judgment already. But higher than Chachma, there's only kindness. There's only Lo yesh b'chinas eschalkus kaven. There is no division yet. From that place, there is a tremendous level of benevolence. There's infinite forgiveness. There is Ein Sof. There's never, on that level, there's no judgment. There's no judgment at all. It's just pure. For God to look away from sin, v'oiver al pesha, and to hop over all the transgressions through Chuvah. Chuvah takes us, but you have to come back to God from a deep place in your soul, and that opens you up to this keser. Chuvah, through Chuvah, ma'umka daliba, from the depth of the heart. And what does Chuvah mean? Chuvah means you gather yourself up from all the things that you have squandered yourself into. See, what happens to us is, because we become so fragmented in life, and we have all kinds of ambitions and all kinds of pursuits and all kinds of desires, and a piece of ourselves get caught in all the various different pieces of interests that we have, things that we have. But when it comes closer to the month of Elul, and then it comes the month of Elul, and then it becomes Slichot, and then it becomes Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, what happens? We suddenly realize that everything is utter insignificant. And the only thing that really matters to us is our relationship with God. So what we do is we extract ourselves from all the pieces of ourselves that got squandered in all kinds of things. And we make a roll call, we blow a whistle, we call all of ourselves together and focus ourselves to one place. Like a lulav. What is lulav? Which is the end of this whole experience of Sukkos. Lulav is lo lev, to him a heart. We only have one heart. We only have one desire. God, I only want you. I don't want anything else. That's why it's called Chaga Asif. That's what Chuvah is. Chuvah is a gathering of yourself with a powerful desire for only oneness. It's like, I don't need anything. I only want you, God. That's what Chuvah is. So it's called the Yantiv of gathering. When you do that, you cause the light in the Sephirot above also to rise outside of the divine limbs and to rise to the place of Ein Sof, where there's no judgment. And everything is replenished, and everything is forgiven, and anything is recharged. That's a much higher place. That's Kesser. That's where the higher fare comes from, as we discussed earlier. From Kesser. You gather yourself up from a place higher than all divisions. And how does it express itself? In the sound of the shofar. What's the sound of the shofar? A simple cry that you can't convey in words. That means it's not divisible. It's just a pure cry that doesn't have any words. It's just sound. Sound without words. Because if something is coming from your mind, if something is coming from your intelligence, from your rational thinking, that's where words come from. But if it's a pain so deep, so essential, it is so primal in the soul, it's so deep. So when it comes out, it's just a cry. It's the pain of the pure essence of the soul wanting to go back home, wanting to get back to God. And in that 1 second, all the blemishes are gone in a split second. And then you have the Yom Tov of gathering. This one cry. That's what the 10 days of repentance are. What do we say then? According to Chassidus, this is the main part of Aseres Yemei Tshuva, is before Baruch Hu. What do we say? Mima makim. From the depth I crawl out to you, God. From the depth of my soul, from the depth of my being. Krasicha Hashem. Through the depth of the heart. What happens? Krasicha Havaya, I call forth a new Yudke Vavke. Because we get to the source of the Ein Sof, higher than God's name even, higher than the tetragrammaton. And we rebuild the entire connection of God with the world. We draw, because the old name of Havaya became blemished through our sins. We have to wipe off the old Havaya and bring in a new Yud Kei Vav Kei, a whole new flow of light. There should be a new will in creation. Everything starts all over again. Everything's anew. Every Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, we literally recreate ourselves, recreate the world. Even God's name, even the divinity of the world is new. God is now engaging on a much deeper level. That's why we say, Vahavaya. My father and mother forsake me, which means the Torah of last year, the written Torah, the oral Torah, forsaken me. I messed up in it. I wasn't such a perfect Jew. I wasn't so perfect in observance. I can't do well. I can't, I'm but Vahavaya, Yudke, above Yudke Vavke. Vahavaya is referring to the higher Yudke Vavke, the Ein Sof. Yasfeinu, from there I will be gathered in. Shalamal, Lameschalkus, Kavin Shemachach Malamata, Yasfeinu gathers me. I'm Bebir, Vakibal Hidin, Vakibal Oshin Yachit, Shalamai Lameschalkus. Okay. And that's why it's called the Yom Tov of gathering. Sha'achar Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, after Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Yemei Chuvah, which is the days of Chuvah. B'Shem Chag Osov, it's the Yom Tov of the harvest, of the pulling in. Shebchenes HaSifa, it's the gathering. You will gather your grain, v'siroshcha, your wine, v'yitzarecha, and your oils. So what does that mean? Look at Chassidus, Gavald. The Gonecha is what? Your grains. That's Baba Kama, Baba Basra. That's Nigla the Torah. All the halacha, the revealed part of the Torah, the revealed Torah. The Gonecha b'chinas gal yusha b'Torah is v'tiroshcha, your wines. That's the secrets of Torah. That's your learning of the Pnimius of Torah, which we do throughout the year. We learn Nigla, we learn Mishnah, Gemara, Halacha. If you come over here, this is a winery. Maayon is a winery. It's all wines, all for the wines, the secrets of the Torah, the wines of the Torah. The Agadata, which is basically secrets. Oh, I'm sorry. Tiroshcha, he doesn't even say is yet the secrets. It's the secrets of the Nigla. It's Agadata. It's the It's the stories of the Gemara. Yitzarecha, the oil, that's Pnimius Torah. That's the secret. That's Chassidus. Razin Dairaisa, the secrets of the Torah. And what do? All year you learn Torah. Take all that Torah and connect it to God Himself. Rise beyond the limitations of it. Lift it up into the Ein Sof. Less of Oisam. To gather them all. To a place that's higher than division. Kavin. Place that's higher than boundaries and limitations. Shalshem Zeh Nikra Chaga Osaf, that's called the Yom Tov of gathering. Shema Asfem Atvu L'Sham, you gather all the grains over there. Ubakol Zeh Yeturitz, now we conclude the maamar. And with all of this will be answered, Ma Shamoy Adim Nikra Shem Atvuos. Why the holidays are called in the name of the grains. Shatvuos Sem Tvuos Sheberuchnias. We're not talking about just the physical grains, crop, spiritual crop. First, there is B'chinas Yira. First, there's the low affair, which is Pesach. So'ira. The Torah, and then there is Shavuos, which is Torah, which is a step higher. Shem Tvuas Hey, Utvuas Vav. The Tvu, it's the one relates to the Hey of God's name, the other one relates to the Vav of Hashem's name. The barley and the wheat. Chagas Sukkos, and then comes Sukkos, whose mana Asav, gathering it all. The Yisroel and Israel, Amreishis Tvuas, they're the beginning of his crop. Hainu. Just like planting. You can't sow grain or anything. You have to have soil. You have to have fertile soil. In the earth is where the power of vegetation resides. Latzmiach, to give forth the vegetation. Only inside the Jewish people can there be tzmicha. The Torah, mitzvos of Torah mitzvos. That means like this: the Torah and the mitzvos are divine seeds, but they need to be planted somewhere in fertile ground. Only a Jewish person is fertile soil where God can plant His garden, His vegetable garden. How do you see that? Angels, they're not fertile ground. They wanted the Torah, and God said, I'm going to plant the Torah in you. Nothing is going to grow. They're not the soil. The malachim, the angels, wanted the Torah. Bikshu Torah wasn't given to them. The nations of the world were also the nations. Im yakaimu haTorah. If the non-Jew fulfills the Torah, if he shakes the 4 species on Sukkot, or he sits in a sukkah, or he blows a shofar on Rosh Hashanah, lo yamshichu klum, they're not drawing anything down. They're not literally. They can do it from a non-Jew decides to wear the tzitzis. It's not downloading anything. You have to have a Jewish soul. That's the bottom line. It's only activated with the it's just like on the earth. There's California. The central California coast is one of the most fertile land that there is in the world. Everything grows here. Best avocados and almonds and wineries and apricots and then there's other places in the United States like Idaho potatoes and the other places in the Midwest where you have all the farms and farms of wheat and barley. It's certain land, but if you try to grow something in a place it's not fertile, in a desert, it doesn't grow. It just, and what are you going to say? Oh, why can't I? It's not fair. It's not about being fair or not fair. This grows and this doesn't grow. There's differences. The desert is not a place that you can't plant it. It's understood. It's the souls of Israel, that's called the desirable land. Pirish Eretz Toiva, it's good land. Shesham Yachaliyas Azriya, that's what can be the divine planting. V'atzmicha, the Torah and mitzvos. And the godly light that the Torah and mitzvos produce in the world, that is going to be revealed only in the days of Mashiach. Little bits of it reveal itself to us on the high holidays or on the holidays throughout the year. Little bit of it. The real deal is going to be revealed in the days of Mashiach, but it has to be planted in the Jewish souls. The Gam Pirish, now the last line. Eretz Chayfetz, a desirable land, Shenishmas Yisroel Hema Oretz, Sheba Yachaliyas Atzmicha, the B'chinas Chayfetz Abavaya. That the souls of Israel, so one Pirush in Eretz Chayfetz is they are a desirable land. The other Pirush in the word Eretz Chayfetz is that they are an Eretz, they're a land where the Chayfetz, which is the Torah, is what could be revealed. The B'chinas Chayfetz are B'chinas Torah. The Chsiv Ba, how do you see Torah is called Chayfetz? It says Hashem Chafetz Laman Tzidko Yagdol Torah V'Yadir. Yagdol Torah Shagdolas Chayfetz Zeh. How does this Chayfetz grow? Hu benishmas Yisroel Dafka is only in the souls of Israel. Shalachei Nikra Reishis Tfuhasai. That's why they are called the beginning of his crop. The beginning of the crop meaning they're the land and the soil that produces the crop. So that's why, in other words, it's not so much that they're the crop, they're what makes all the crop grow. Through all the mitzvos that we do. With this week just concluded, this very, very special maamar that we've been learning already for a few weeks. May we merit this year to have a real Chag Asif, a real Yom Tov of gathering. And we should all be gathered to the Holy Land. That's the ultimate gathering of the grain to the Beis Hamikdash, Bezrat Hashem.